What's up, everybody, and welcome to our C programming tutorial where we're going to be talking about header files, right? Um, your host is Stormrex, the coder. No. What's up, everybody, and welcome to our C programming tutorial for this week. Your host is Stormrex, the coder. As I've mentioned, we're gonna start understanding the container of our program. If you will recall, before we only discussed that this is how you set your program, right? I just included header files and all that. In this tutorial, we're gonna start doing that, starting with the header files, right? Um, what is a header file, right? That's the question that one gets to ask themselves as to what is a header file. So a header file is just a file that contains methods. In this tutorial, what we're going to do is we're just going to create a simple program with a few methods, and then we're going to call those methods in our main program. If you will recall, previously we spoke about methods, right? And then we spoke about methods that have a return type and the method that don't have any return type, right? In this tutorial, we're gonna be doing, or inside our header file, we're just gonna include methods with return file or with return statements, because we want to use the values that the functions return on our code. Cool. So how do you name a header file? That's one thing that you have to understand, because if you check from Python has modules, right? And then you create a file and then you give it the same extension as the Python script. So it's just Python script. You basically just create a Python script with methods and then you import that in your main method. But then when it comes to C, you have to name your header file with an extension called h. So it's .h. It's a header file, right? And then the other question that one gets to ask themselves is to how do you add this header file in your C program so that when your compiler compiles your code and you're trying to access methods which you have defined in your header file, it will know, right? So you use something called include, #include, and then the name of your header file, right? But there's something that you need to understand before you go any further. What the hell is include, right? That's one thing that you want to understand. So include, this is just a preprocessor directive which gets to be ran. So your compiler is going to start from the top of your code, right, until the bottom. So it's going to start by including whatever header files you want to include. And then once you include those header files, you will be able to access the methods inside that header file, right? So this is not that complicated. Okay, it might seem complicated at first, but basically what you're trying to accomplish is that you are trying to include a file with methods in such a way that you just have the separate file with those methods, and then you call them when you need them. And then that way it makes it easy for your code, because you need to break down your program into files if you're dealing with a big project. But if it's just a small project, well, there's really no need for breaking it down to header files. So that's why we need header files, so that you can properly organize your code, right? For instance, you can have a program that does different kind of things, right? And mathematical operations, it does whatever that you want to do, and then you can do that in one program. But you don't want to have methods with addition, or methods for mathematical operations and methods for whatever purpose, whatever that you want to do in your program, right? So it's easier to just break it down into files and then you include those files in your main program, right? Right now, let's head over to the coding side and start exploring. There we go. Let's just create two tabs. that way. Cool. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a header file, right? And based on what we just discussed now, to name your header file, you just save it a header file, right? So I'm just going to call this header file morex and then install. And then the extension that you create is h, right? That's the extension. And then I'm going to start. So basically what I want, let's just do a basic calculator program, and then we're going to have a header file for addition, right, or for maths, and then we're just going to call this morex. Okay, it's just morex, which is going to allow you to have the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, right? So int add, and then you're going to have two parameters. You can have as many parameters as you want. So this is int a, int b. Cool. And then what you want to do is you just want to return a plus b. Cool. But then you notice something, right? Even if you're on your IDE, you will see that the keywords int and the return are being recognized. But in this file is just a header file, right? What does this mean? So this means that this header file does understand the syntax of C. Understand, right? So basically that's what you're doing, and this is nothing familiar to you. The only thing that is new in this tutorial is just creating a header file, but in terms of the syntax wise, you are familiar with this. And then let's create another one for subtraction. We're just going to use sub int a, int b, then we go return, and then we're just gonna subtract b from a, and there we go. And then we have int mul, and then it's int a, int b, and then we gonna multiply a and b, and let's not forget that. And last but not least, int div, and then we have int a, int b, then we're just going to return the quotient of that, which is b over a. So we're going to divide b by a, right? And that's it. So once we're done, let's just save and exit, and then we have our header file. mkdir, let's just say header files, just organize our stuff. Sudo move, I'm just gonna move morex to header files. Cool, there we go. And then we cd header files, and then you will see that we only have just morex.h, right? That's the header file that we created. Then now we want to create the main method, vim main.c, right? And then we're going to start, right? Include, you normally include stdio.h, right? And then it's include. Now according to the slides, we said you're just going to use double quotes, and then you're just going to include morex.h. Cool. Now something to look up or to research afterwards is why don't we just use the greater than and the less than equal to include? Why? Or rather, is it possible for me to actually include using that method, right? So go explore. As I've mentioned, the only way to learn is exploring, because you can never know everything. So the fastest way to discover things is you just exploring, and then you will get control, and you will get hold of all the syntax, and you will get to know the do's and the don'ts, illegal and legal ways of doing things in any language that you're learning, right? Cool. So we're gonna have our main method. We've discussed this, so I'm sure by now you guys are understanding this. Cool. Then we just want to have two numbers, so we have A, and then we have B, right? And then we have sum, subtraction, so we have sum, sum, subtraction, okay, let's just say subt, mult, and dived. The reason why I'm using dived or divide, let's just say divide or division, is because we already have the functions right in our header file, right? So we already have, or let's just open the header file on this tab, right? So okay, we don't want that, so we're not gonna create any file. We don't want music. Oh, I forgot. And then vim, you only have that file. There we go. So we have add, right? If I declare my variable the same as the function, I will be contradicting myself. So it's better to just use different variable names, right? Just like as I've mentioned before, right? Don't use the keywords as your variable names, as the one of the naming rules. But sometimes you can just play around and see what happens. Sometimes it's better to see why you shouldn't do certain things and not be told as to don't do this, and you just follow along and not do it, right? Cool. So let's head over to our coding, and there we go. We could have just done this there as well, A and then B, since they are both of the same type. And then we start declaring, so we have 50, and then B is equals to 2, right? Cool. So let's start. So this is printf, and then we're just gonna have sum, right? Or we're just gonna say A plus B. Okay, just say sum, and then we say this is percentage D. You remember what we did before, and then we have our A, and then percentage D our B. So we're gonna have a plus sign in between, and then equal sign. You can just have a space and then have a space, and then we're gonna have our sum. Cool. And then we'll start providing in order, right? A, B, and then sum. Cool. Then what we want to do is one end line after that, so maybe also end line again. I'll just end line once, and then let's print f, and then let's do subtraction or difference. Cool. And then we have D, first one, second one, so this is subtraction, and then we end line, right? But I'm not ending line in the right place. Cool. Remember from our header file that we are subtracting A from B, right? So we must start with B, then A, then subt. Cool. Mention actually I should mention this before anything, that we haven't actually defined this currently. We're gonna define that. Okay, cool. There we go. And then we have printf, and then we have multiplication. Actually, I'm gonna mess this up very soon. D, and then multiply, we just say cross, and then multiply D, since this is just a text, right? And then we have our multiplication there, and then we have A, B, then mult. Cool. And then we can just copy this and paste, since we're already familiar with everything. There we go. and then we have division. This is division, and then we have a and b, and then we're just gonna do division there, or quotient rather, quotient. There we go. So what I wanted to do was to just no, let me not do it. It's fine. Cool. That's what we have, and then now we declare, right? So sum is equals to add, and then a, and then b, and then sub is equals to sub, and then a, then b, and then mult is equals to a, then b, then this, right? But I must do what? I must do this, and then it's mul, and there we go. And then last but not least is division. Division is equals to div a, then b. And there we go. And let's check. Let's div mult sub. Everything looks fine. Yeah, everything looks fine. Let's close the header file, not this one. Okay, we can just save this one for now. Then we're just gonna exit, and then we have two files, and then we're just gonna use a G++ compiler, and then it's main, and then we just want our output to be Morex. And then you see that we have a problem there, right? It says that what? Too many arguments for format. Oh yeah, because I forgot. So we are supposed to have 3, but I only have 2 there, so I have to edit there. There we go, and it's there. Which one are we talking about for subtraction? Oh yeah, then I'm focusing on multiplication, because I see the other ones are fine. Subtraction, and then we have another D. There we go. Then we can end line. We'll just leave it as it is. It's a good thing we came back and did this, because there we go. Now it makes sense. And if we run it again, let's see what compiler is happy, then it's Morex, and then that's what we have, right? And this one, it says 5 times 2 just returns quotient division. Let's do this. There we go. Cool. Then returns 0 because I'm dividing 2 by 50. So let's just change the order of that one. Ooh, I'm not creating any file. I just want to open my file, rex.h. There we go. And then we're just gonna reverse the order of the division and say, oh, we can just reverse it there, but let me just reverse it here. And then you see what happens, right? Understanding how this whole thing works enables you to perform what you're supposed to perform. Because if I was to say I'm performing a division and then I'm getting 0, I was gonna wonder as to what's really happening. Am I making a mistake, or there's something else? So you have to understand how the methods were defined in the header file, right? So cool. So now we run our program. There we go. And let's just create our run button again. There we go. And there we go. The other one is not ending file. Where is it? Let's just edit that so that we have a nice output that is not confusing. Let's move extra spaces. Cool. And then we run this, and this is what we have. That's basically what a header file is. So you wanna create a file that is separate with the methods or the purpose or the action that you want, or basically a method that does what you want the method to do. Whenever you need that method, it does what you want. So in this case, you would use this header file that we just created for doing a calculator, right? And you will see as we go further and then we start doing projects that it's gonna get more complex and more complex. I'm not so sure if I'm gonna keep it up in terms of using my Vim for the projects, regardless of how big or small they are. But I guarantee you that when it comes to the big projects, I might not use Vim. That's where I'm going to use an IDE of my preference, but it doesn't really matter which IDE you use because what matters is the syntax. You know that you can actually use an IDE, but use an IDE just for managing your files, but do the actual coding on Vim or on your favorite editor. If ever you ever use an IDE, is fine. If you want to use a Vim, if I'm more of a Vim guy like myself, you can just do that. But and that's basically yeah, that's basically how header file works, and that was the topic of header files. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I shall see you guys in the next tutorial. Do enjoy, and I do hope this was not really that overwhelming, but yeah, that's it for me guys, and I shall see you guys next week.